this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
The big game commercials are basically must-see TV. This year, Elf Cosmetics went all out with an absurdly funny telenovela called Melissa. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Nicholas Gonzalez, Itati Cantoral, and Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil. The Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil is an ultra-glossy tinted lip oil that nourishes, hydrates, and enhances your lips' natural color.
Watch the full episode of their new Elf novela on soyunbaño.com.
Ever wonder why so many people regain weight after stopping a GLP-1? Up to 40% of the weight lost can come from lean muscle. This weakens the body, slows metabolism, and makes it easier to put the pounds back on, creating a cycle of dependency. Prolon's 5-day fasting-mimicking diet offers a drug-free way to maintain results and support long-term metabolic health. In just 5 days, it activates fasting pathways to burn fat, protect muscle, and rejuvenate cells, all while letting you enjoy real food. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/iHeart. That's prolonlife.com/iHeart.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more, listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
1969. Malcolm and Martin are gone. America is in crisis. And at Morehouse College, the students make their move.
These students, including a young Samuel L. Jackson, locked up the members of the Board of Trustees, including Martin Luther King Sr. It's the true story of protest and rebellion in Black American history that you'll never forget. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Middle is supported by Journalism Funding Partners, a nonprofit organization striving to increase the sustainability of local journalism by building connections between donors and news organizations. More information on how you can support The Middle at listentothemiddle.com. Welcome to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson, along with our house DJ, Tolliver. And Tolliver, you know, there was a moment in the debate the other day that sets up the show we were about to do perfectly. It involved Donald Trump repeating a story about Haitian immigrants eating dogs that was spreading like crazy on social media, even though there was no evidence that it ever actually happened.
Yeah, and I don't want to admit how many hours I spent actually looking this up. It was more than one. Trust me. Elon got me again, man.
He got you again, and you couldn't even find anything. So social media, as you know, uses algorithms to determine what we see. That story got picked up on mainly right-wing TV channels and websites. Then it got repeated by the former president in front of a huge debate audience. And then it got real-time fact-checked by the ABC News debate moderator, David Muir. In other words, social media did the spreading, traditional media did the fact-checking. We're going to talk about that as we ask our question this hour. Do media and social media companies have too much power in our elections? We'll get to your calls at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353 in just a moment. But first, we did do a special show after the debate the other night and heard from so many of you about your thoughts on the debate. Here are some of the voicemails that came in.
Hey, this is Kevin from Michigan. As an independent voter, I don't think Donald Trump did anything to bring anyone else into his realm. It's just going to be his base voting for him.
This is Vicente Montoya from Las Vegas, Nevada. I was underwhelmed by former President Trump's extensive lies, and I thought that Kamala Harris overcame those lies.
This is Richard from Fort Collins. I'm calling to say that I listened to the debate, and I think after hearing it, neither one of these people are qualified to be president. She remains unspecific about policies. He, of course, started a little better, but eventually he became himself.
Well, thanks to everyone who called in, and you can hear that entire episode on our podcast in partnership with iHeart Podcasts on the iHeart app or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's already our most downloaded podcast episode ever. So that people really wanted to hear what everybody thought about the debate. So now to our topic this hour. Do media and social media companies have too much power in this election? Tolliver, can you give people the number, please?
Yeah, it's 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can write to us at listentothemiddle.com.
Let's meet our panel. Journalist Michael Wolff is known for his many books chronicling the Trump administration, including Fire and Fury, Inside the Trump White House. His latest is called The Fall, The End of Fox News and the Murdoch Dynasty. Michael Wolff, welcome to The Middle.
Thanks for having me.
And Katie Harbath is also with us. She is the CEO of Anchor Change and Chief Global Affairs Officer at Duco. That's a technology consulting firm. She also spent a decade at Facebook working on elections. Katie, great to have you with us as well.
Thanks for having me.
Well, and before we get to the phones, Michael, just big picture from your perspective, from a media perspective, who do you think in the media, in the social media, has the most power in the 2024 election?
I would still say that probably television does. Cable television on the Fox and on the right, the other cable stations on the left. And largely because they have a singular, they have a monolithic audience, whereas social media has a hit and miss, vaguely uncontrolled. You don't really know who it's reaching at any given time. So your pillar of influence is still television.
And just to drill down on that a little bit, the audiences, when you look at the actual numbers of these cable channels, are not that high compared to some other media that are out there, but maybe just very influential, or they impact all the rest of the media because what they do is seen by everybody.
It's people who sit in. The message they receive. Television is still the medium that is sending the most coherent message. Mm-hmm. So therefore, you can measure it better. Because you know what people are hearing, you can probably analyze it better. The through line, the thought line is clearer. But having said that, of course, you're right that these audiences are much smaller than they have been in the past, and so none of this, and I think you can sort of put a pillar in the sand right here. None of this is as influential as network television used to be 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Katie, from a digital perspective, about half of Americans get at least some news from social media that involves algorithms, as we said. Do we have any idea how much those algorithms involve human beings affecting what we see versus just maybe artificial intelligence determining what we might like to see?
It's a little bit of everything, to be honest. And I think just to bridge sort of what you and Michael were talking about as well, even what we see on TV is being blurred because you have a lot of people watching streaming channels and connected TV on their television sets over the internet, and they don't necessarily have traditional cable and stuff like that. So it makes all this a little bit more blurry. But in terms of what you're seeing on any social media platform, there's a combination of what you as the user has chosen to engage with, what you are choosing to follow. And then the algorithms are also sort of responding to that and showing you additional content that they think that you might want to see, that you might be interested in, and that you want to like, comment, and share with. And so, and those criteria are determined by humans at these tech companies. And so it is a little bit of a mixture of both in terms of what people's information diet is when they're online.
Well, and a guy named Jonathan Nagler, who's the co-director of NYU's Center for Social Media and Politics, said about Elon Musk, who owns X, quote, "He can change the algorithm on a whim, and he is completely free to tweak the algorithm so it weights up or suppresses any content that he chooses. He can decide to suppress anything that's critical of Trump. He can decide to suppress any content that praises Harris." Is that right? Is that really true?
Yeah, he can. I mean, we saw that, after the World Cup, he was upset by the fact that Joe Biden's tweet was getting more engagement than his. And there's well-reported stories that he had product teams go in and wanted to boost his engagement. And there was a day there where you logged into X and all you saw was Elon Musk posts. The challenge is that with both X and all these platforms is we have less transparency into how these algorithms are actually working. So we don't quite know what levers he is pulling versus not, nor do we on many of these other ones.
Let's go to the phones, and Dwayne is in Covington, Louisiana. Dwayne, welcome to The Middle. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My comment is that both the traditional media and social media have only the power that we give them. The main thing is what people do when they find this information, and like you said, if they repeat it on social media, it spreads like wildfire because social media's goal remains to get eyeballs on the page. So I think while they do have a power to gatekeep some information, ultimately it's up to us to take the information we get and do the right things with it.
Great point, Dwayne. Michael Wolff, your thoughts about that? That social media and media companies only have the power that we give them.
I don't know what that means. I'm gonna pass on that because it really means nothing whatsoever.
See, I disagree. I think that actually, I think we have a lot of agency in terms of determining what our information diet is on any given day. There's so much news out there, and we have the choices of what sites we go and visit, whether those are social media ones, news ones, what channels we're turning on the television. And so I think that in a way we do have agency in terms of which places we go and what we're choosing to look at, and then also how we choose to react to it.
I'll push back on that gladly. Actually, the whole course of modern media, that is to say, let's say the last 20 years or the last 30 years, is about targeting. That's how media companies exist. That's how media companies make their money.
This podcast is supported by the original organic bedding and bath brand, Koyuchi.
Koyuchi has spent 35 years pioneering quality organic textiles, long before the word organic became, trendy. But words matter to Koyuchi. Words like craftsmanship, longevity, and wellness. So what does the word wellness mean to Koyuchi? It means that all of our products are absolutely free from harsh chemicals and dangerous toxins that can seep into your skin. It means effortless style that looks as good as it feels with naturally breathable, pre-washed organic cotton. And what does all of that mean to you? Well, it means that you can sleep well in Koyuchi's crisp, cool, luxuriously soft sheets that are ethically made and made with you in mind. Live well, sleep well with Koyuchi. And now during our Memorial Day sale event, you can enjoy 20% off organic cotton sheets, towels, and everything else at Koyuchi.com. That's Koyuchi.com for 20% off from now until May 25th. Koyuchi.com.
Their reason for being is their ability to target you, to reach the people whose interests they're creating programming for. And this has become that is the media business. It is a very clear discipline, a very clear business skill. That's what the media is doing. So the idea that the media is supplying information that people can pick or choose, or supplying one funnel of information, and you can and out of that it reaches a lot of different people. It's just not true anymore. That's what the media does. The media business fails if it can't target you.
Katie Harbeth, a lot of journalists are. Michael was talking about how these cable news channels they do have a lot of influential viewers, but the social media. You can't walk into a newsroom right now and not see X up on the screens of the journalists. What happens on there and what people see is going to affect a lot of the media that goes out.
Yeah, but I think that that's where we need to be careful about not just looking at what's happening with X, because it's certainly not just in this election, but past elections has very much been a place to influence journalists, elites, academics, and others But traditionally, what we oftentimes saw was that a majority of voters were in places like Facebook, they're in places like YouTube. We now saw Pew Internet said that for folks under 30, 50% of them are going to TikTok for news and political information. And so I think that this is, it's also very fragmented by generational ways of getting information.
Right. For instance, Tolliver, who's just a couple of years younger than me, uses TikTok, but I don't. Tolliver, by the way, we've been talking about Elon Musk. He did endorse Trump in the election, who has in turn announced that he would give him a position in the administration if he wins.
Naturally. Here's a clip of the two of them conversing just shortly after the assassination attempt on Trump back in July.
There's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say. Part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the President of the United States for having another term here is that was just incredibly inspiring.
He was talking there, Tolliver, about the assassination attempt on former President Trump, and we will be right back with more of The Middle.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, Ryder, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of to come around here with my wife. Boom, boom.
This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
14 years in prison for killing a young woman. A 15-year sentence for a crash that caused 3 deaths. 12 and a half years for killing a child and critically injuring her mother. All true stories, all caused by marijuana-impaired drivers. No matter what you tell yourself, if you feel different, you drive different. So, if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious Black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's Place, Black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place. A story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. If you're just tuning in, The Middle is a national call-in show. We're focused on elevating voices from the middle, geographically, politically, and philosophically, or maybe you just want to meet in the middle. This hour, we're asking you, do media and social media companies have too much sway in this election? Tolliver, what is the number of people to call in?
It's 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. You can also write to us at listentothemiddle.com or on social media and TikTok, where I just posted something. Go comment on it.
And before we get back to the phones, Katie Harbath, some of the most powerful people on social media are what we call influencers. And according to the research, the more outlandish things an influencer posts, the more interaction they get, the more followers they get, the more influential they become, which doesn't seem very good for society at all.
No, and this has been the challenge that we've been having with social media and algorithms and the tension around both companies wanting to keep people on their platforms, people wanting to have people that are engaging with them, and they keep moving further and further to the extremes to sort of have those sorts of incentives. And I think that that's one thing that you see some platforms and stuff trying to rethink about different ways of ways that you could design this and stuff like that. But at the moment, the business considerations still continue to outweigh those around what you're seeing influencers and others kind of post on social media.
Let's go to the phones, and Doug, who is in Princeton, Minnesota. Doug, welcome to The Middle. What do you think?
I don't pay attention to social media except what I hear about it on public radio. National Public Radio and Minnesota Public Radio are my main sources of national and quasi-local information. As you all know, I'm sure, local newspapers are a dying business, which is too bad, and there's nowhere else to get local news. From what I hear, social media isn't worth listening to or getting information from. It's totally off the wall. And that's basically my thoughts.
Do you watch any TV, Doug?
No.
No. Just getting it from NPR. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that call. I have to imagine, Michael Wolff, that there are a lot of people like Doug who are not looking at social media at all and aren't influenced by it at all and are focused on traditional media. And he's right that a lot of newspapers that have been extremely important in our country for so long are dying.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely true. And it is interesting that I mean, you could the probably the most important voting demographic are older people, and older people actually have the least interest in social media. So maybe this is a completely non-issue.
By the way,
I think I just want to add. If I could just add one point.
Of course.
When we shouldn't separate out traditional media and social media from everything, because NPR, many of these news outlets also are on TikTok, they're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they are sharing news on those. And we saw even during the conventions, those sometimes get the most numbers of people who are following them and getting news from.
Good point. Let's go to Paul, who's in Augusta, Georgia. Paul, welcome to The Middle. Go ahead.
Hi. I just noticed, and I'm 51 years old, I noticed in my lifetime that there's kind of been a loss of focus in the media, like newscasters on television. There was probably a little bit of a left-wing bias just in the industry. But in the 1980s, I could see the newscasters, while they might have a little bit of sweat if Reagan was going to win or something, they would try to be unbiased. It was an ethic to try to be unbiased. Then Fox News comes in the 90s, and they get a lot of market share by targeting people that were more conservative, and so the news has that bit of a stint to it. And then you see MSNBC is really going hardcore to the left, and then you see a lot of the network media kind of going to the left and just having so much spin and just a very negative spin on the candidate that they don't like. Just it's very obvious, insulting to our intelligence sometimes as viewers, I think. And so, I think that's something when Trump says that he talks about fake news. And, I think that's what resonates with people. There's so much of a bias. There's a polarized media. Maybe C-SPAN or local news still has some lack of bias to it. But it's very, very obvious to me as a viewer that Fox has a certain spin and then other networks have a certain spin.
But do you think,
and
do you,
so
Paul, do you
also
think
with-
that they have power with their spin, where they say we want things to be this way, or they're only going to focus on this side of the story? Do you think that has an effect on the outcome of an election?
Oh, well, I mean, it certainly can. And also the algorithms from, I mean, I think some of it could be intentional, and I think it may be actually a good thing that X and Twitter has a right-wing spin, because now you've got a Fox News type online social media to counterbalance the left-wing spin from the other media. I think mostly it's algorithm-fed, but there's also, I mean, that it feeds you what you want to see. But after the last election, I think the media companies were putting their thumb on the scale. If people were interested in knowing was there election interference, I mean, it's a legitimate question whether it happened or not. I mean, that was censored. So was the COVID-19 virus questions and things like that.
That's a point I want to bring up, Paul, with Michael Wolff here, because if you listen to people on the right, they would say the whole mainstream media is in the tank for the Democrats, and that social media companies were censoring things involving COVID, involving maybe national security, that because the Biden administration told them to. What about that whole part of the story, Michael Wolff?
Well, you know, I mean, I think it may be much broader than that, and the crisis may be much deeper, because I don't just think it is people on the right who have who are suspicious of media. I think everyone is suspicious of media. You know, people in the media. You know, I think we rank up there with with lawyers as
popularity.
As someone, yes, as some of the real dubious people in the nation. So which kind of prompts another question, that maybe the media has less influence as it has become much more culturally suspect in American life. I mean, and I'll go back to years ago when the media was absolutely trusted, when ABC, NBC, CBS, those newscasts spoke to people. That was the American consensus. It came out of network news. There is obviously no consensus now, and so that may be a result, in fact, not of the media's overweening influence, but of its loss of influence.
And Katie Harbath, the media also, as we've said, they're on all of these social media apps and social media sites. The social media companies are almost a gatekeeper to what can get out there and how quickly the traditional media can get out there. What kind of an effect do you think that has on the news that the traditional media companies are doing?
Well, I think it impacts, traditional media, what they're choosing to cover on social media, how they're choosing to cover it, to try to play to how people are wanting to get information and what they're choosing to consume.
Yeah. Let's go to Christine, who's in Little Falls, Minnesota. Christine, what do you think?
Well, hi there. I don't know. I think this maybe blends both your last episode and this episode, but I just feel like there's been an absence of the voice of, what are our branches of government 101 in coverage, whether that's traditional media or social media. I feel like we've heard certainly positions and platforms from the candidates, but I think what's been absent is this discussion of no one presidential candidate, if we function under the way our government is set up to function, has the power in and of themselves to enact everything they want on their platform. This is a distributive leadership model, and we're supposed to be working from a we versus an I perspective. And I just feel like certainly someone who has not had my 10th grade social studies for many, many decades, I would benefit, and I think a lot of consumers of social media would benefit about the way things really happen in government. Like, I think we hear a lot what we want things to happen and how vision is important. But I think what is absent, like the understanding of a leader really setting a tone or a direction for a country, and yet not being able to implement absolutely everything with the stroke of a pen,
Yeah.
unless, of course, we want to abandon those traditional
Yeah.
the way our government has been set up. So I feel
Nobody's
like that's
doing
the-
U.S. Government 101 on social media. Thank you, Christine, for that call. I mean, let's go to Brittany, who's in Colorado Springs. Hi, Brittany. Welcome to The Middle. Go ahead.
So my perspective on this, I'm a bit younger than most of your other callers, and I also have a YouTube channel where I cover true crime. Obviously, with having a YouTube channel, I have an Instagram, I have a Facebook, I have all the other platforms so people can follow me, right? And I don't think there's any way to get around social media being a news source now. People are, quite frankly, not really reading the newspaper. They're not reading news articles. They would rather see what their favorite personality has to say about the articles and what their opinion is of it. Ironically, most of my subscribers are women over the age of 60, which is a really niche population to get into. I'm not sure how that happened. A lot of them are from Australia, which is super cool. But
Do you ever
we
talk
have a
about? Do you
very
ever
big-
talk about the election on your YouTube channel, Brittany?
I do not. I do watch people who do.
Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
Yeah.
I tend to focus more on local crime and local government.
Yeah. Huh. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that call, Brittany. Katie Harbath. Yeah. Your thoughts?
I don't think it's just that people want to see it from, I think people want to see it from firsthand accounts. They want to see it from people, not sort of like faceless brands. I think that they too, like I was just reading a new study out from Weber Shandwick about how people consume information on TikTok, and like the way that you're seeing younger consumers, you know, not necessarily trusting right away what they see, looking to the comments to see if people are saying it's fake or not, kind of doing real-time fact checking. Like people are living now, they're like, misinformation is a thing, and they need to be more aware of it and thinking about what that looks like. And I agree with her. I think, like, listen, the social media, this is out of the bag. The internet is used for news is out of the bag, and we got to figure out how to deal with it.
Michael Wolff, do you see any? You've talked about in your book is the fall of Fox News and the Murdoch empire. Do you see any parallels between Murdoch and some of the titans of tech right now, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and people like that?
Not a single parallel. You know, Rupert Murdoch is a classic newspaper man. That's what he lives and soon will die for. You know, the fact that he has expanded out into other media, and matter of fact, he has made many efforts into digital media, all of which have been colossal failures.
MySpace, right, was one of them, I think.
Well, just to name just one of them. And even Fox News, which is the thing that he'll probably be most remembered for, and is certainly the most transformative media platform that he's ever been involved in. Really, he was not that involved in. That was really created by other people, because Murdoch is actually not that interested in television. Murdoch, for better or worse, is an old-fashioned newspaper guy. I suppose the last old-fashioned newspaper guy.
Why do
Katie,
you think? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I got a quick question for you. I'm just jumping here. Do you think there's a way to improve media literacy on these social media platforms? I know X does some sort of fact checking that I sort of trust, but like when I waded into this like Haitian migrant dog story the other day, it was astounding to me the people that were going, "No, it's true." A lady on Facebook told me it was true.
Well, I can answer that. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think the nature of social media, and you know, and I don't think, and we probably should address this. Is that it is not a top-down function. It's a it's a cacophony rather than anything coherent. And yes, there are algorithms, and yes, there's some you can discuss what is insidiously behind, but the truth is you're talking about a largely uncontrolled medium, which is what is attractive to people about it.
Let's go to Michael, who's in Dallas, Texas. Michael, welcome to The Middle. What do you think?
Well, my opinion is, in my early days as a student, or a journalism student, I learned this saying that if it bleeds, it leads. And I think that we have to always keep in mind that the media and even social media really has a business objective in, tantalizing and upselling. And I think that's important to keep in mind. And I saw this picture of President Biden wearing a Trump hat. And, some of the comments, I apologize, made him out to look like a buffoon. But, if you waited, social media would go on, and it actually turned out to be a really wholesome experience. There's a video where President Biden was exchanging hats with some apparently Trump supporters. And, I'm not sure that is being so widely
it's a great point, Michael. I saw that too, and I saw the headline, and then I actually watched the video, and you're right. It's kind of a sweet moment where he goes and trades a hat with a Trump supporter. Thank you for that call. Let me go, Katie Harbath. If it bleeds, it leads, and it gets back to what we were talking about. So the more outlandish thing that somebody says on social media, the more clicks they're probably going to get.
Well, I think that I too was a journalism major and very much learned the bleeds it leads. Because again, media is also a business, and they want people's attention and what they're going to be clicking on. So this attention economy is not something that was just started with the internet. I think what the challenge is you just have a lot more content now, and you don't necessarily have the context that would come with some of these stories that you would get with the more traditional media as you're kind of thinking about all of this. And I think one of the great tensions in all of this is the tension between giving people what they want based upon their own experience and what they're doing versus what we think they should know, and with the veggies, if you will, around all of that, which a lot of people then will just log off that website or turn off that channel and turn on something else.
Tolliver, we've talked about Meta a bit. That's the owner of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, which reached some 3.2 billion users in total.
Ooh, yeah, and the owner is Mark Zuckerberg, who says he wants to be less political this election season. Here he is in an interview with Bloomberg News earlier this year.
Personally, I'm also planning on not playing a significant role in the election. I've done some stuff personally in the past. I'm not planning on doing that this time. And that includes, not endorsing either of the candidates. Now, look, there's obviously a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. The historic events over the weekend. And, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I feel like that counts as wading into the election and saying it was badass. That's pretty
I know,
strong
after
language.
he said he wasn't going to wade in, and then he did. We will be right back with more of The Middle.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world. The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. People were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather. It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea. In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune. It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, Ryder, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of to come around here and my wife.
Boom, boom. This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
14 years in prison for killing a young woman. A 15-year sentence for a crash that caused 3 deaths. 12 and a half years for killing a child and critically injuring her mother. All true stories, all caused by marijuana-impaired drivers. No matter what you tell yourself, if you feel different, you drive different. So, if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Segregation in the day, integration at night. When segregation was the law, one mysterious black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's Place, black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform. The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place. A story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. This hour, we're asking you, do media and social media companies have too much sway in this election? You can call us at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can reach out at listentothemiddle.com. I'm joined by tech policy expert Katie Harbath and journalist Michael Wolff. And because I don't like to make promises on this show that I can't keep, we're going to talk about the thing I said we were going to talk about at the beginning. I want to bring this up because I think it demonstrates just how much influence media and social media can have in the election. It happened in the presidential debate earlier this week. Former President Trump repeated unsubstantiated claims that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio are eating the household pets of residents in the area. Moderator David Muir pushed back on that claim. Listen to this exchange.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Michael Wolff, what does that episode say to you in the context of this discussion?
You know, well, I'm wondering if that will be in the end the historically memorable line from that debate, and does that go? Will that hurt Donald Trump, or will that help Donald Trump? The mere fact that this is the line that everyone remembers.
Katie Harbath, what do you think?
I think that I don't know if I think we'll remember this like we remember Binders Full of Women. from the
Mitt
Romney
Romney,
debates
right,
back
right.
in 2012 and stuff like that. I think what's different in this case, though, is how we've seen things that will start online, going all the way back to 2004 with blogs and stuff. You saw how things online could move throughout the media ecosystem. People of influence pick it up and all that. But what we've seen in the Trump age with 2016 and continuing on to today is how much faster those things are getting picked up by influential voices and being respread. Elon Musk did the same thing around there, which can cause you start to have this blurring. Then it's not just the algorithms that have power. Then these are people that have large followings online and offline, and people listen to and have positions of power that can then make people be like, they're considered trustworthy. And so then that can impact this probably a heck of a lot more than algorithms can.
But does that make people trust the media less? So even that instance in the debate, so we've now had that that was the 67 million people who watched that debate. A good number came away, certainly, I think, feeling, okay, yeah, that's preposterous, and whoever would say that, who could believe that except Donald Trump? Therefore, let's extend that out. You begin to question everything or many things that you hear in the media. So again, I would come back to that, to the point that I have been coming back to, which is that the media is not what it once was, and right now it is actually in its own particular existential crisis. Do people believe it? Do people actually have the opposite? When you hear something in the media where you don't, that doesn't influence you. Quite the opposite, you distrust it.
Let's go to Larissa, who's in Aurora, Illinois. Larissa, welcome to The Middle. Go ahead.
It was right along those lines where I was just kind of horrified to find out that our politicians are, falling for these satire sites. Do people fact check? Isn't that part of what the media is supposed to do for us? If it's raining, the reporter isn't supposed to say, well, what do you think? Is it raining? They're supposed to look out the window and see if it's raining.
Yeah, good point, Larissa. Katie Harbath, you spent time at Facebook dealing with elections. Is there much of a fact check aspect to the work there from the company's perspective?
I mean, yeah, after 2016, the company established partnerships with a whole bunch of fact checkers. And in fact, if they mark something as false, it gets a label, the reach gets reduced. So you don't even really see it that much on the platform. But there's actually been some mixed research around these fact checks and labeling things as false. Does it actually cause people to distrust what they see online even more? And so there's a lot more of psychological research that has to be done, because it's usually not as simple as just telling somebody something's false, because sometimes that actually makes them dig in their heels even more.
Interesting. Right. That is very interesting. Let's go to Tim in Dallas. Tim, welcome to The Middle. Go ahead.
Hi. First, real quickly, I wanted to say I'm originally from Steubenville, Ohio, and we're a meat and potatoes state, and we will eat many things in the Buckeye State, but we draw the line at household pets.
Okay, good. Got that out there. Yep.
As far as your subject goes, with all due respect, I think the emphasis might be a little misplaced. I work with, I'm 61, I work with a lot of people, really all people, who are from 20 to their early 30s. I'm absolutely appalled that when I've asked them who they're voting for, and it's my opinion, but I'm appalled that they're mostly voting for Trump. And the thing they have in common is that they're getting their news from TikTok, X, places like that. I don't try to convince them otherwise. But what I believe the problem is not so much a biased media trying to hoodwink people. It's the fact that people who are younger, and I'm talking about, younger than 35, they have not been taught to think critically. Anybody with two brain cells to rub together would look at the so-called story about the dogs in Ohio, and they would say, okay, that's clearly not going to be true. And all you have to do is look it up online, and you'll find out that it's been debunked. Younger people I hate to say they're great people, but they just don't want to think about things.
Okay, I'm going to let you stop right there, Tim, because we have a lot of young people that call in. I don't want you to walk too far into the lion's den on that. But let me go to our guests and see what they think about that. Michael Wolff.
Yeah, I would say we're talking about the eating dogs and eating household pets not because of social media. We're talking about it because of mainstream media, because Trump talked about this in front of 67 million people on ABC. So I think it's important to parse that. This was a social media a social media thing of little consequence. It became of consequence because of a television network.
Katie Harbeth.
Jeremy.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Tolliver.
I was just going to say our producer, Harrison, is 28, never fact-checked a thing in his life. Ever.
That's not true. He fact checks all the time. But by the way, while you're with us, Tolliver, I know there's some comments coming in online.
Yeah, exactly. Margot in Wyoming says, one of the things everyone has failed to bring up is that under Reagan, the FCC took the fairness clause out of reporting. This allowed media outlets such as Fox News and MSNBC to report one side over the other. It also allowed commentators such as Rush Limbaugh to thrive. I think it's really hurt our country. Ralph in Hollis, New Hampshire says, it's important to differentiate between reporting and providing commentary with a biased perspective versus crossing the line to frequently reporting false facts. Is right-wing and certain social media more prone to the latter? I'll bring that question to Katie since I cut you off.
Oh, no, it's okay. I don't think one side is more prone to certain things over the other. I think that you've actually seen some reporting. I don't want to both sides of it, but I think it's not necessarily ideological around this. I do want to make a point though I actually think I trust younger people online more than I trust older people, if I'm 100% honest. And the one question I would actually have for those younger voters that I'd be really curious about is if some of this is rooted in the economy. Because I think that how somebody who's in their 60s is and where they've been and economically where they might be versus where somebody in their 20s is and what they're facing themselves around home ownership and things of that nature. That would just be one. I'd be curious to dig into the issues versus it just being them blindly following whatever they see on social media.
Let's go to Will, who's in Little Rock, Arkansas. Will, welcome to the middle. What do you think?
Hey, thanks for having me. So I use various social media, and what I see more is a siloing off of certain groups on the internet. So you see on Twitter, I think it breaks to the right, of course. People are being bombarded with so much information that they're unable to tell fact from fiction. So to the extent that fact-checking even works, I think in the legacy media and in social media, I think it just doesn't work like it used to. And so you can try and correct, but I'm not sure that you can correct past a certain point of misinformation.
So siloing off of people into different parts of social media. Do you spend much time on social media, Will?
I mean, sure. I think I still use X, formerly known as Twitter, because at one point it was a truly great place to get live news from around the world. And I still use Facebook, and it's a shame that neither of those places are really great places to meet online communities anymore. There's this idea of the death of the internet, and I think you kind of see it. Everything is kind of being consolidated and into these ever-increasingly more hostile in-groups on the internet, and it makes it difficult to truly connect with other people.
Will, thank you for that. Michael Wolff, do you see a difference between the sort of siloing of people on social media and the siloing of people and in traditional media and cable news and the newspapers that people read in just where people decide to get their news? Are we ever going to have a situation where we have something that's trusted across the political spectrum that has a huge audience like we used to?
Are we ever going back to the network news? No, we are never going back to the network news.
isn't that a big problem for the country? I mean, not the network news in particular, but just that we don't have the same trust of the same source of news.
Well, no, I don't know if it's a problem. I mean, it's a difference. Things change. The media has transformed. It has always been in a state of transformation, and now, I mean, the circa, and now actually you can go on I think, and say the social media and the internet is in a state of transformation. Google has just been slapped with a mighty antitrust judgment that will transform the company and therefore transform the internet. So I mean, this is a technology, and that's what media is, doesn't stand still, and this conversation probably won't be that relevant a year, 2 years, 5 years from now,
because we won't be getting our news or using the same sites as we do now.
Because the nature of the medium, the nature of the technology will have changed. The problems may well be worse then, or we may characterize them as worse, but they won't be the same problems as we're talking about right now.
Let's squeeze one more call in. Daniel is in Aurora, Colorado. Daniel, welcome to The Middle. Tell us what you think.
Hi. So I'm 19 years old. I've been using social media for news and information my whole life. And I feel like that social media is more of a tool for voters to inform themselves about elections rather than corporations to sway elections, because each post that's put out on social media has an equal chance of reaching a user, and it's up to that user to fact check it and use that information as they choose.
Great. Daniel, thank you for that. And I also appreciate you calling in because you're 19 and I said we had younger callers, and there you are. Katie Harbath, what about Daniel's point there?
I think that's partially true. I don't think it's easy for just anybody to start an account and post something and have it go viral. But one of the things, I always kind of cringe a little bit when we talk about, people think that there was this great golden age when it was just the three networks. Like, this is all a conversation about power and accountability. And in those days, it was three networks that really had the power over what we all saw. Now that's been a lot more fragmented. And we don't like the tech companies having that type of power. We don't like the governments having that type of power. So I 100% agree with Michael. I don't think it's just the media environment going through a great transformation. I think it's sort of our entire societal ecosystem and our information environment, and how we think about the right checks and balances and holding one another accountable, while also having our own individual agency of needing to double check what we see and read online.
Well, and Katie Harbath, do you expect any checks and balances when it comes to government regulation of these social media companies, or are they just going to sit back and wait for the next ones to come along?
At the federal level, in time for this election, no. We've seen a lot of laws at the state level. There's a lot of regulation that's happening overseas. But I think the thing that we need to think about, and to Michael's point about how things are going to be different 5 years from now, AI is going to fundamentally change how we consume news and information over the next 5 years. That is going to be a place you will see regulation, but regulation always trails where the technology is going. And I think that's going to be something that we need to pay attention to. My mantra for this time period is to panic responsibly. Like, let's be aware of the negative things that might come from all of this, but let's also make sure we can separate out the signal from the noise of the impact it's actually having.
Yeah. Okay, before we wrap this hour, I'm going to take a hard turn, Michael Wolff, while we have you, and ask you something that is not necessarily exactly about this, which is, you have obviously spent so much time following the Trump White House. You wrote the bombshell book Fire and Fury in 2018. As you watch this campaign in its last 2 months, do you think that Trump and his team expect right now to win this race?
Well, I should give myself a little promo and say that's a question that we address constantly on the podcast, Fire and Fury podcast. Yeah, available on iHeart. Please, we'd love to have you listen in. But I absolutely think Donald Trump believes that he is absolutely going to win, and he may be right.
We'll leave it there. I want to thank my guests, journalist Michael Wolff, who's obviously got the Fire and Fury podcast, has also got his latest book called The Fall, The End of Fox News and the Murdoch Dynasty, and Katie Harbath, CEO and founder of the tech policy firm Anchor Change. Thanks to both of you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next week, we're going to be looking at a topic that offers a big contrast between Harris and Trump. That is NATO and its value and importance to the United States. We'll be joined by longtime CNN Moscow correspondent Jill Doherty and former U.S. ambassador to the Czech Republic, John Shattuck. So be sure to tune in for that.
And be sure to call in at 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can reach out at listentothemiddle.com, where you can also sign up for our free weekly newsletter.
The Middle is brought to you by Long Nook Media, distributed by Illinois Public Media in Urbana, Illinois, and produced by Harrison Patino, Danny Alexander, Sam Burmis-Dawes, and John Barth. Our intern is Annika Deschler. Our technical director is Jason Croft. Thanks to our podcast audience and the more than 410 public radio stations making it possible for people across the country to listen to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson, and I will talk to you next week.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more, listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
1969. Malcolm and Martin are gone. America is in crisis. And at Morehouse College, the students make their move.
These students, including a young Samuel L. Jackson, locked up the members of the Board of Trustees, including Martin Luther King Sr. It's the true story of protest and rebellion in Black American history that you'll never forget. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
14 years in prison for killing a young woman. A 15-year sentence for a crash that caused 3 deaths. 12 and a half years for killing a child and critically injuring her mother. All true stories, all caused by marijuana-impaired drivers. No matter what you tell yourself, if you feel different, you drive different. So, if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather. In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to everybody.
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'm going back to my hometown to uncover the truth. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
When segregation was a law, one mysterious Black club owner, Charlie Fitzgerald, had his own rules.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
It was like stepping on another world.
Was he a businessman, a criminal, a hero?
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
Charlie's Place, from Atlas Obscura and Visit Myrtle Beach. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.